Hi there, dance studio owner, and welcome to the Transform My Dance Studio podcast. In this very special series of podcasts, we are so excited to be bringing you some of our favorite guests. Of course, I'm talking about the members of the Dance Studio Owners Inner Circle. We wanted to share these with you over the next 2 weeks because these studio owners are just like you. They are here to share their success stories, and I know you are going to love them as much as we do.
Such a superstar, a studio owner that is so dedicated and passionate about bringing, great training to her students, but also just a fantastic customer experience, which we're all about. So I want you to say a big hello and give a warm welcome to Heather Wrubel. And she is the CEO, I love saying that, of Bowman Dance Company. She's based in Pennsylvania. Heather, hi, how are you?
Hello, thanks for having me, Clint.
Hey, so good, so good for you to be here. Heather, why don't we start by you telling us a little bit about your studio owner journey? How did you get started? And give us a bit of a snapshot of what the studio looks like today.
Sure. So dance has always been a part of my life, from the age of 2 all the way up. I taught at several different studios from the age of 14 all the way through my college career, graduating, again, getting jobs at other studios that other people owned. And then I got married. My husband was in the Army, and we moved to Georgia. And I started branching out and doing some of my stuff on my own as a private contractor with the government and their recreational department, and kind of running their dance program for them. So I started out there. And when we moved back to Pennsylvania, here where we are now, I had to get a corporate job just to financially be able to afford to live in the North, compared to the cost of living in the South. So I got a job in corporate America doing real estate. I was in property management. And I managed a huge property, multi-million-dollar property. And I was miserable because it was not my passion. I was really depressed. And my husband started to notice and to see it. And he said, this has always been your dream to own your own place. Why don't you look at what we can do to do that? So he kind of shoved me in that direction. And I started writing my business plan, going to banks, trying to get loans. And I heard the podcast you had with Shauna earlier. And it's true. You don't realize how much banks hate dance studio owners till you try to go get money from them. Mm-hmm. So I wound up just getting a small business loan. My husband borrowed money from his 401k to kind of help me get started. So we had a very small budget to start with. So I was still working full time at the property management position and running the studio. So it kind of was really hard those first few years because I was, we opened my studio, my son was 4. So he was young, and I think he had the hardest time with me when I opened my studio because I would see him in the morning, drop him off at 4Care at 7 a.m., and then I wouldn't see him till the next morning when I woke him up because I was going straight from work to the studio to run classes, to teach, to take payments. I was up all hours of the night doing the bookkeeping and trying to market and think of events and things to do with the kids, and it was just exhausting. And I think I lasted 2.5 years like that, running full time in all different directions, trying to be all things to all people. And my husband said, it's either time for you to do this or to stop it because it's killing you. So I went part-time, kind of gradually left the corporate world, went part-time, spent more time in the studio. And then my husband got a big promotion at his job, and he said, just do it, just quit and go full-time at the studio. And then I did that, and that's where we are. I mean, I think I've been full-time at the studio now. This is my 4th year full-time at the studio.
I love it. So when you went full-time, what changed in the studio? So because it's such a huge step. I'm thinking about Danny in the Inner Circle as well. We've had a few people in the Inner Circle that have gone, being with us, and they're like, okay, I need to make the leap. Yes. And it's super scary, because it's super, and as you know, you can talk about it, but what were the things that you did during those first years when you went full time that have kept it as a sustainable business now for you?
The biggest thing was really being able to take the time to develop my core values. I know that when I first started and I was just going, I was accepting anybody that walked in the door, and I was just desperate for kids to try to make ends meet. So it was really kind of not my ideal kind of a business. I wasn't really happy with the kinds of students we were having. Their passion wasn't with the passion that I had. And our tagline is cultivating a passion for dance. And these kids just really weren't following with that suit. So really kind of sitting down and figuring out really where I wanted my business to be, what I wanted it to look like, and focusing on attracting those types of people. And our student numbers jumped. We doubled. Like I was at 70, not even 70 kids after being in 3 years of business, because it was only part-time. It was like a hobby. I only had 70 kids, and we almost doubled that first year that I went full-time. In our student numbers to be able to kind of sustain me going full time. Then I wound up having a baby, so I hired staff, and things started to kind of like snowball after that.
Yeah, totally. Talk about you talked about hiring staff just then, and I think it's interesting because one of the things, that we work on and we work through in the inner circle is really about building a team so that everything doesn't just stay in your head. Because if it's just you as a solo operator with everything in your head and you're doing everything, you're going to burn out super fast, and you're only going to be able to get to a certain stage. You run out of capacity, and you also end up like not liking what you do anymore. So when you started hiring, because it's scary for people to hire, they say, I don't have money to hire. They go through all these things. So what was your process around, hiring people? How did you start?
Well, I started because I knew that I couldn't do it all anymore. Like that was, I think, the biggest challenge that I had moving from part-time studio owner to full-time studio owner, was realizing all the different hats that I was wearing that I really wasn't doing at all before I went full-time into the studio, and that it was making it harder and harder for me to be in the classroom, to be able to devote the time that was needed to develop the lesson plans, and to be able to really be full 100% in for the kids, and do the admin and the bookkeeping and the marketing and all those other hats that we put on as business owners. So I knew that I needed help. And then what also catapulted that was that I found out I was pregnant. So I knew that I was due in April. Our end of the year production is in June. I knew that I was not going to be able to have a new baby, be a full-time teacher, a studio owner, and run a production. That was just not feasible for me. So I knew that we needed staff in place that the students would feel secure through the whole year without having me to pull out in April at the end of the season. So that really catapulted that decision for me. But I went through kind of like what I wanted our students to have, like the type of education I wanted them to have, the type of energy and culture that we wanted in the studio. And I really looked for people to kind of fill in that void. I wanted teachers that were like me. I mean, to be honest, I really wanted teachers that were as passionate and dedicated to the kids and to the school, and to what our mission was and our goals were for them. That's really what I was looking for. And thankfully, I found it without having a system, because I wasn't involved in the inner circle at that point. So it was just by luck, I think, that I found those people, and they've been with me ever since. Like they're going on, their 4th year with me, 5th year, some of them that have been with me a little bit longer. And I'm just thankful that they have stuck around and have been as committed as I have been to the school and the kids.
What do you think, for you being a leader, right, the CEO of your studio, what's your leadership style, and why do you think, people are staying with you for years and years? Because we've seen it. People like have staff turnover over and over and over again. They get frustrated because they're like, I've got to start at the beginning all the time, and I'm losing all these losing all these staff members all the time. What's your special sauce, do you think, when it comes to being a leader that attracts and keeps the right team members?
Well, I treat them like human beings. Like I really try to treat them like I would want to be treated as an employee, and as a staff member or team member. I give them the freedom to teach their classes. I mean, we have a syllabus which we just implemented, we just implemented that all this year. So I gave them the guidelines, but didn't give them I still let them be creative in the process of teaching, which I think they love. They love that creativity side. Teachers are really creative. They love being able to make up their own choreography and their own exercises, but having that guideline and structure really does help. I'm there for them. They know that I'm there for them 24/7 if they need something, whether it's personal or professional, that I'm there to support them. which I think they really appreciate, because they know that if they're struggling personally, that I'm there to help them, to support them so that they can still be 100% in their community and know what their role is here with us at the studio.
Yeah, completely. Now, you talked about kind of doubling numbers in that first year. I know you've continually increased student numbers, and you've been working with us for a little while this year inside of the Inner Circle, but you've been a part of our family for a long time in Studio Success Formula and the association.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you've implemented, let's say over the last 2 years, strategy-wise and tactically, to get new students through the door? Not just new people, right? Because we can all get new bodies, but getting the new students that are the right students for the studio, for the culture, for the values that you've carefully put in place.
Well, the first step for me was really deciding the type of students that we wanted to have here, as far as both in our recreational department and our competitive department. Really taking a look at both of those, deciding what kinds of kids we wanted in each segment of our business that we have, really developing that avatar, and tailoring our marketing campaigns for those particular students, because they're two totally different programs, two totally different types of kids, and making sure that our instructors understood the goals of both programs, because we can't treat our recreational kids like we treat our company kids, and really understanding like what those two programs are about, what our goals are, what our roles are, getting them on board to understand what we're trying to achieve was really helpful. And just putting that system in place. We did not have an enrollment process before I started with the Success Formula and with the Inner Circle at all. We were constantly losing people through the cracks, and I realized that that was where we really needed to, our first step needed to be, was to really nail down that enrollment process and to make sure that our staff knew what to do from point A all the way through the registration, and then once they register, what to do with them after that, to really culture them and to make them feel a part of our family so that they stayed with us throughout the long term.
Yeah, I love that. I just want to touch on that before we move on. For everyone that's listening, I was just having a conversation actually with my Uber driver yesterday when I was coming home from Vegas. It was like the best Uber driver ever, because he wants to put his son into hip hop. And he was asking me great questions like, you know, what is the biggest challenge for studio owners and what makes a great studio? Like, where should I take my son? And I was talking to him about the enrollment process, that you really want to look at that first point of contact. First impressions last. We've all heard that saying. It's so critical now that there's like more competition than there ever has been in the studio industry. And just your point about putting the enrollment process in place and seeing where the gaps currently are. Because so often, right, we go, I want more students, I want more students. You're getting the leads, like students are coming through, but you're not kind of getting them through the process to like get them into a trial class and the conversations around that. And then also get them into, you know, enrolling.
Yeah.
What else do you think is important from a student attraction side of things?
I think just really understanding and communicating to the parent what the expectation is. A lot of parents that come into the dance studio, like we take it for granted. We've been in this industry for, you know, hundreds of years, from itty bitty babies all the way up. So we know exactly what happens in a dance class. We know what we're supposed to wear. We know how our hair is supposed to be. We know the etiquette inside the classroom. We know that 3-year-olds are going to be screaming and crying in their first class. All these types of things that we just take and understand. The parents don't understand that. They have no idea what to expect when they bring their kid into the room and into the door, and just really kind of letting them know what the process is, you know, that there is a process, and to walk them through that step by step so that they really understand what they're getting involved in. Whether it's recreational or competitive, like they need to understand what the commitment is, what they're expected as a parent, what their child is expected as a dancer, so that there's no confusion. And then when they know the expectation, then they're not let down. We're not let down as the studio owner, or the teachers, or the dance studio. There's a real clear, like, ground for us to walk on with each other. And I think that's really key. And we've really stressed that over the last 12 months going through the Inner Circle. Like, what is the expectation? What do our students need to know? What do our families need to know? to be a part of our program to have a successful year so that they're not upset or anxious or I didn't know that or I wasn't expecting to have this expense or I wasn't expecting to have this come up. It's really important. They need to know everything about what's expected in the dance world.
So crucial and important. Heather, I want you to share, you talked a little bit in the inner circle about your buddy week. I'd love for you to kind of share a little bit about that buddy week because I know it went well for you with our studio owners that are listening because it was a great win.
It was a great win. This year was fabulous. We had more kids than we ever had attend our buddy week with friends. Our kids were really excited about buddy week. The parents were also excited, which they talked it up. We've never had a referral program at our school. I mean, people refer people to us all the time. We just say thank you. We appreciate it. But there's never been kind of any kind of reward or incentive for our parents to really do that. And going through the inner circle, I realized the importance of saying, like, rewarding our parents for talking good about us and bringing us their friends and their neighbors and their family members into the studio. So we did implement a referral program, and we implemented it for both the family that's our current family that's bringing, as well as the new family that's coming in. So they both get a reward for coming and registering. So we really promoted that going into Buddy Week, and we gave invitations to every student. Which we had done in the past, but we kind of revamped them a little bit, made them a little bit more fun, more like a party type of feel to them. And we addressed them to each student and said that this student has invited you to this class to come join us for dancing. It has, the waivers and all that fun stuff that has to go in there legally, but for the parents to sign, and that way they could just come with their friend to class. The parent didn't have to physically come in. We gave each friend and dancer that brought, each of them got a goodie bag, and in that goodie bag was a coupon for the reward. So if you register by a certain date, you get, it was $50 total, or it was 25 split between the two. So it was a really nice incentive, and the families really took advantage of it. But for me, it was 1 month's tuition, not even, 1 month's tuition. If the student registered, that I was offering back to the family for saying, thank you for coming to Buddy Week. Thank you for registering. Thank you for referring. And it really helped boost those numbers because people were thinking, I'm going to get $25 off my tuition. That's going to really help me going into the, Thanksgiving holiday season because we do it in October. Yeah. So they would get it off of their November's tuition.
Yeah, amazing. I love it. And I love seeing the success around the program as well. You've had an amazing kind of past 12 months, and I know this has been your most kind of profitable year in the studio. For people that are listening that are like, I'd like to be more profitable, what would you say are like some of the key things or decisions you've made or things that you've, put in place this year that have helped you to boost those profits over the last, 12 months?
Sure. The biggest thing for me was taking a look at what I was worth, at what we were charging our parents and what we were actually worth, and the two didn't go match. The class capacity forecast that we have in the success formula is extremely helpful to really take a look at. And the first time I went through the success formula program, I went through that spreadsheet and almost vomited with how much I was not making and losing on especially certain classes that I was just not willing to give up because there was only 2 or 3 kids in them, and I really needed to look at the studio and the numbers more on a financial business side as opposed to an emotional side. And that was the biggest change for me, is really taking a hard look at a business, like numbers, like what are we actually making on this particular area of our business, whether it be classes, whether it be a birthday party, whether it be a special event we were holding. Are we profitable? Are we actually charging what we should be charging to hold this event with the expenses that we have? And the biggest part of that is I wasn't really tracking anything. So starting to track those numbers made a big difference for us. And really understanding what we were charging our students, what each class was costing me, what the teachers were costing me, what my rent was, taking all of that into consideration. And my husband says, I love the inner circle. He's like, Clint has made you think more as a business owner than a studio owner, because he's like, as a studio owner, you're thinking more emotionally. You weren't really thinking about like making a profit. You were thinking about making everybody happy, which as females, I think is huge because we want to be liked and we want to make everybody happy. And that's kind of my personality, is to kind of make everybody feel good. And he said that mindset change has been huge in developing us and making us move forward, like changing our tuition structure, changing, dividing out our rec and our comp programs, like separating those out so we can really track financially what's making us money and what's not. And then also adding our syllabus so we have structure within each program. So, and our teachers love it. They were so thankful for us adding that in and giving them guidelines to follow. It's really helped. And the parents see the value in that, because there's really not any other studio in our area that offers a syllabus program. They don't have a syllabus that they work from. So us adding that in just made us step like that much more above the competition and offering a more valuable program.
Yeah, programming is crucial. We talk a lot about it, making the syllabus the celebrity versus the teacher. It's important that there is the structure inside of the class. It's essentially your intellectual property that helps you stand out as a studio owner. You talked about kind of, getting clarity on the numbers, which is big. We talk a lot about that in the inner circle because that's where it starts. It isn't the sexy stuff, but it is the really important stuff that you need to get through, that you need to understand. We are open. Doors are open, guys, everyone that's watching, to apply for the inner circle. And if you want details on that, you just type inner circle into the comments. But Heather, what are the benefits have you seen of being a member of the inner circle, during this year since you joined us?
For me, it's having the advice and the plan. I know what I want in my studio, but sometimes knowing how to achieve it or to get there, having that roadmap and plan in place, and step-by-step instructions on how to get there has been really, really helpful in clarifying the decisions that I'm making, having access to Justin and Jane and Christy and all these people to really develop me as the CEO, because that's, I think, has been the biggest change in me from when I started to where I am now, is that leadership quality in how I address my team, how I address my parents, how I address the students, and that's invaluable because that's not something that I could have gotten, I think, anywhere else. The other members that are in the inner circle, I have developed in a very short time some really close friendships. One of them lives close enough that I can actually go to lunch with. So it's nice to be able to meet up and talk about the things that we're struggling with, because they have the same struggles sometimes, or they've been there, and they can share their advice of what worked, what didn't work, where they fell short, or what they wish they would have done differently or changed in their decision that they made around that topic. It's unbelievable. There's so much sharing and giving, and that's what I've always looked for as a studio owner. I felt segregated a lot because no one wants to share information. Everyone's afraid of, stealing students or stealing programming or stealing ideas or this, that, or the other. And it's just really nice to be in a group that's really willing to give you everything that you need to be successful. On all sides, between the members, your team, your staff, the experts that we have involved in the program, they're there for us 24/7 all the time to be able to help us kind of step through the challenge that we have in front of us. And that's really huge to move forward.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And that's what I love. I love the community inside of the inner circle, but I also love the team that we've built in this program. Jane, Christy, Justin, our pro classes every month. There's really some incredible access to some fantastic people. The inner circle isn't right for everyone. The culture. You've been to a retreat. You're on the coaching calls. You know how I work, how I teach, how I coach. Our experts. Who is the inner circle for? Do you think? Like, who's going to be perfect if they're like someone's sitting thinking like, should I apply? Like, who is the perfect person, do you think, for the inner circle?
The perfect person, I feel, is someone that's not afraid to be uncomfortable. because this program really steps you out of your comfort zone, makes you do the work, holds you accountable. So you need to be not afraid to meet those expectations that you hold for us, because you have really high expectations for the members that are in this group, and they need to be able to meet that and really want to do better, have the drive to be able to, like, you have to have a goal to move your business to a certain point. And if you're constantly finding yourself hitting a roadblock and not being able to get to that next step and where you're wanting to take your business, this is the program for you. This is the type of person that needs to be here, because they need to be able to push through that roadblock, to be able to move on to the next level and to have the success that they're looking for in their business. And it's not just about business, it's about success in life. You know, when I first started my studio, I told you I was working full time and working the studio. I never saw my son, never saw my husband. I'm spending more time than I ever have at home. I'm home almost every night, except for when I have to observe a class or come in for a meeting, or, you know, I'm more in that CEO role and management role now than ever before. And my husband appreciates it. My family appreciates it.
We love happy husband.
Yeah, and this would not have been possible without this group. And I think that someone who's in that same situation where they find themselves spinning their wheels and not getting anywhere and really wanting to move to that next level, this is the program for them. That's the type of person that needs to be in this group.
Thank you for sharing. It's important that our members share who's going to be perfect, you know, for the group, because it is member driven. You know, we, you know, at our live events, at our retreats, you know, it's like a family reunion. You know, every 6 months. So, you know, we want to make sure that we get the right people in. Heather, thank you so much for sharing your journey. I'm so proud of what you've achieved.
Thank you. It's been because of you. That's
the thing is, right, like you said, you've got to do the work. You know, the inner circle isn't a lottery ticket. You don't just like come into the inner circle and everything changes. We give you the tools and the resources and the support and the accountability, but you still got to, we give you as much as we can, but I'm not coming knocking on your front door to get you out of bed every day. You've still got to do the work. So you're such a great implementer, and you really do well with what we give you. And you know, I'd love to be one of your staff at your studio and work for you. I think it would be a lot of fun. Heather, what's your website so our studio owners can go and check out what you're up to?
Sure. Yeah, our website is bowmandance.com. It's really simple, easy to find us. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, so search for us there.
Awesome. Heather, such a treat. Denise has said hello to us as well. Denise, another one of our inner circle members. We love Denise and Randy from California. Great. Thanks, Heather. Really appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you in the inner circle in the group.
Great.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Transform My Dance Studio. To find out more about joining Clint and our industry-leading team in the Inner Circle, make sure you head over to www.dancestudioownersassociation.com/innercircle.